The views and opinions expressed on any program are those of the producers and/or the persons appearing on the program, and do not necessarily reflect the views and opinions of FRC Media, Bristol Community College, or the City of Fall River.
Well, hello. Welcome to Spindle City Straight Talk. I'm Chip.
And I'm CJ.
And it's Friday, and boy, do we have a lot to talk about today.
They're coming to take me away, ha-ha. Take me away, ho-ho.
It's like a flurry of action. It's incredible. Allegations, switching positions, backtracking, complete 180 reversals. I mean, it's just crazy.
Well, let's take this back to September 6th. Okay, so we're going back, what, 2 days ago?
Yep.
And the mayor admitted to the Fall River Herald News that he is under FBI investigation. And he goes into some details with the Herald News. And the news gets published at 5:24 p.m. on October 6th. Approximately 1 hour later, the mayor comes out with a statement on his Facebook page. This headline is misinterpreted and not true. I challenge the Herald News to make available the entire recording of this interview so the public can witness with their own ears the misrepresentations of this article by this journalist. He's calling her a liar. Oh, no.
Yeah.
I will continue to address any allegations made by anyone, as I always have, and will continue the turnaround of Fall River despite the people who want to hold this city hostage. Think about the timing of this article. It's days after my fundraiser as the Herald News looks for ad money, and the day before their debate. Highly suspect. Thank you and God bless. Then,
the next chapter of the As the Stomach Turns.
As the Stomach Churns, at 6:08 p.m. on September 7th, the Herald News publishes that in a meeting with editorial staff of the Herald News, Mayor Correa apologized for demanding the paper release an audio recording of an interview and for social media posts attacking the story. After publicly challenging the Herald News to release an audio recording of an interview regarding an alleged federal law enforcement probe involving his app company Snow Owl, Mayor Jason Correa II reversed his position, saying it could hurt other parties mentioned in the meeting with the reporter. The Herald News recorded the entire 1 hour and 2-minute interview with Correa approving of this recording. In a meeting with editorial staff of the Herald News, Correa apologized for the demand and for social media posts attacking the story published on Thursday. Quote, I challenged the release and I shouldn't have. It was a private conversation that should stay private, Correa said.
Oh, yeah, this is beautiful. Yep. This is beautiful.
While he believed, quote, the gist, quote, unquote, of the story was accurate, Correa said he had a problem with both an online headline and one in the print version that indicates the mayor is under an FBI investigation. Correa contends that any probe by the law enforcement is not a formal investigation, but rather an effort to determine if a string of allegations by his detractors.
Okay. Enough of his rationalizations. Yes. Let's stop, okay? Look, I hate to say this, but you're the guy that started this. You challenged, you call, and absolutely, let the people hear. Well, you know something, people, we should want to hear it. Because you know something, it isn't about it's a private conversation.
That's right.
That should stay private. He realized that if they did release this thing, we don't know how many other people he threw under the bus. We don't know how many names he named. And how, and the people would actually get to interpret what was said, period. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. What was said, how it was said, the context in which it was said. But now all of a sudden somebody must have said, are you crazy? You're going to let them listen to what you said? Uh-oh, no. Well, I'm going to change my position after I come out again and blame everybody else. The Herald News is looking for ad money. Oh, the Herald News, it's suspicious. Oh, this guy's cousin's running. Oh, I'm 19 and I didn't know any better. No, I'm sorry. This is ridiculous. This is a question of he opened his mouth before he engaged his brain. And then when they called him on it, it's like playing Texas Hold'em. They called him. He was bluffing. He was being a politician. And when the Herald News said, okay, we have confidence in our reporter and what she reported, let the public hear it. That's what he asked for. But now be careful what you ask for, because you might get it. And they were going to give it to him. And now all of a sudden it's like, oh, no, please, don't, no, it's private. You know, you asked for it. And let's look at the original statement here, when he supposedly, now we've corroborated that this is basically what he said.
He corroborated it. He admitted to it.
Yeah, he admitted it. He admitted it. But it says here that this is after months of public denial, blah, 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 blah. Had been a federal grand jury had been convened regarding his startup company, Snow Isle, where he remains the president. Where he remains the president. Where he remains the president. And then he said...
Can you tell me that again?
That's right. Well, you got to, I got to, because maybe he forgot what that means.
I know. That's
At the end of the day, I know I'm not going to get in any trouble. And then he says, I have faith in I have faith in the competent people who work with me. Well, then he wasn't competent. He had no faith in the people that he's talking about, because this is a direct quote. I was 19 years old, and my voice was still high-pitched. No, that's not part of the quote. I'm sorry. I was 19 years old. Let's keep that in mind. And I had an idea, and I had people who trusted me at the end of the day to make it a reality. That was my sole focus. It wasn't the legal aspect, the accounting aspect, the maintenance aspect. My goal was to get the money and make it a reality, unquote. That was my role. No, it isn't, Mayor Correa. You were the president of the company. And as Harry Truman, who was the president of the United States, so accurately said, the buck stops here. You were responsible for the accounting aspect. You were responsible for the legal aspects. Granted, as a president or a CEO, you don't do it, but you have to hire, as you said at the beginning of this article, competent people to do your accounting. You have to have competent people to deal with
the competent people he hires for the city of Fall River?
Right. The legal aspects of this, the maintenance aspects of it. Because guess what? If you own a company and you're the president of the company and your accountant screws everything up and never pays your taxes and runs off to Guatemala with your money, IRS is not, the IRS is calling you in.
That's right.
And guess what? That accountant may lose his accounting practice. He may never be an accountant again, but you're responsible for the taxes. It's your company. You're the president. You are responsible for every single aspect. And don't use your age. You were old enough to come up with the idea. So obviously, there have been people that were billionaires by the time they were 19 or 20 in today's society with just that kind of stuff.
Well, it's interesting because last time I checked, the age of majority in Massachusetts was 18.
That's right.
You can enter into contracts, you can vote, you can do a lot of things. You can get married without your parents signing off.
Well, how old were those kids that developed Facebook?
Yeah, exactly.
They were still in college.
That's right.
They were still in college.
Plus, let's look at his history. And we've talked about his history in the past, okay? He didn't pay his rent over at Anawan Street. At least that's the allegation, okay? So that's alleged. But when we look back at his record, his resume, there's not really a lot of success in that resume. I think in the entire resume that he had posted, and I think it's still posted, the only job he held was Nordstrom, selling clothing. So how can you turn around and say, I'm 19? What, you were too young to run a company, but you're not too young to run the city?
Well,
is this commentary now a distraction? Are we detractors? No. We're stating what you're stating, Mr. Mayor. We're saying exactly what you said. And I personally want to call out the Herald News. And I want to tell the Herald News. And I want all our viewers to call out the Herald News. Give the Herald News a phone call. 508-676-8211. Call them. Tell them to release the tapes. Go directly to Ms. Stratton, go directly to Ms. Sullivan, and say, release the tape. We want to hear what this mayor had to say.
Well, he does have a pretty good track record of, and he says in the article here, you know, I don't want to throw anybody under the bus, and then he throws everybody under the bus, which is probably what's in that tape that he doesn't want released now, because he has a great habit of blaming everybody. He's the mayor, he submitted the budget, but he blames the city council for raising fees. No, they act on a budget. He blames everybody. I didn't know, and the same thing. What did they say when his mentor abused the city's trust by spending all that money and partying like a rock star in New York? What did he say? I wasn't aware, I didn't sign. Well, you did sign. Then we proved he did sign. But I didn't know, but then we found out he did know. And now the article is full of crap, but now it's not full of crap. And he wanted it released publicly, but now he doesn't want it released publicly. So, I mean, talk about flip-flop, boy.
And the problem is that...
I mean, this guy flip-flops so much, he's like a windmill.
And the thing is, though, if you have nothing to hide, let him release the tape.
Yeah.
Let him release the tape. What, are you afraid that the zombies are going to hear something you don't want them to hear? I saw them sitting there yesterday. Michelle Dion's one of them, who's a candidate for city council, who can find no wrong of your administration, which means that if you do get reelected, Mr. Mayor, and your money, which you've given to Ms. Dion and Mr. Dupere, you've bought their vote on the council. Bought and paid for. Bought and paid for. And it seems that's a lot of what you do. You buy and pay for things, like your mentor, which then bought and paid for $6,000 trips.
Well, let's look at something very clearly. He's great at using the semantics, and he likes to. Now, we've already proven that he's lied continuously about the FBI investigation. That's a given. But he'll say, well, and he started on the radio. I have never been informed. Well, you hired a law firm. So you didn't know you were under investigation? It was a half-truth. It was a misrepresentation at best and a flat-out lie as far as I'm concerned. You know damn well you were being investigated. You hired a law firm.
I'm going to quote him. I think they're trying to prove or disprove whether they are going to investigate me criminally. You acknowledge in that statement. Yeah. You acknowledge that you're under investigation.
Yeah, but all his zombies... now will not say that was a lie. Let's see how they spin that, because everything he says, now we had that about the investigation. Now we have challenging the veracity of a Herald News reporter who sometimes I don't agree with the way Joe Good frames something. I may not agree with the article overall, but I'm not going to refute facts. I know she does her homework.
That's right.
She's not going to say anything that she cannot prove. She's a very competent reporter. Most of the stuff she writes, I'm fine. Sometimes I don't think she goes after people hard enough, and sometimes I think but that's the way it is. But the fact is that she is a quality reporter. She makes sure that anything she states as a fact is a fact, and she can prove it. This is why the Herald News didn't bat an eye. He made the challenge, and they said, okay, that's what you want? Be careful what you ask for, because we're going to give it to you. And who blinked? Who backed off? The mayor. So is this another? He's covering up another lie? He's covering up another misrepresentation? He came out swinging with a political response, and then he realized, you wrote this check with your mouth, and now your butt's going to have to cash it. And the Herald News was prepared to cash the check. And the public should want to hear that tape. They should want to hear that tape.
I
Now he created the problem. All he had to do was tell the truth, CJ. All he had to do was say, yeah, you're right, I'm under investigation. Well, you know, the way I look at it, though, you know, I haven't been served, you know, blah, 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 and I've hired lawyers, and I'm preparing, but, you know, it's pretty obvious that no, it's Council LeBeau, it's Sean Kadim, they all got something against me, and there's always somebody else to blame. Sounds a lot like a teenage child, don't you? It's never my fault.
It's the
you know,
teenage response.
Johnny stole the cookies too. He took some cookies. Oh, it's not my fault. You know, everybody's picking on me. You know, stop it. Stop it. You're all picking on me. It's a big conspiracy. So guess what? Guess what? You're supposed to be the mayor of the city of Fall River. Stand up and take responsibility. When you do something right, say, that's right. I did it. And when you do something wrong, say, look, I screwed up. There's nobody in the world that hasn't screwed up. There's nobody in the world that has said something that they wish they didn't say. But you move on, you learn, and you learn how to deal with it. But remember, you're up there with all this political spinology saying how great you're doing. We can't see anything, in my opinion, of what you've done except raise a hell of a lot of fees and taxes and do a lot of spinning. But what I don't see is a mayor who is willing to take the hit when he does something wrong. And I'll go back to Theodore Roosevelt. Theodore Roosevelt gave a great speech once about the criticism of the President of the United States. And you know what he said? And I'm paraphrasing now because I don't have the quote in front of me. He said that it is 100% correct to criticize the President of the United States. And as citizens and voters, you have every right to criticize the president when he is wrong. But conversely, when he's right, you should give him credit where credit is due. So the fact is, one of our greatest presidents, in my opinion, the president that was responsible for our national park system, a president who won the Congressional Medal of Honor as a soldier, that president realized that taking responsibility when you do something wrong is part of the job, and that nobody can do everything right. But he was willing to take it. I'd like to see, for once, you stand up and say, look, you know, I wasn't as forthcoming as I should have been, and that's the political, you know, jargon. You can make it sound a little less. I wasn't as forthcoming as I should have been. I should have been more clear and blah, blah, blah. But at least take some responsibility. And while we're talking about responsibility on the air, I heard somebody on Facebook said I wrote Linda's closing. Anybody who ever watched and read any of my letters who has watched me in front of the council knows that I did not write that. Okay, that was fundamentally Linda rebutting what the mayor said to her. And it wasn't a close, in my opinion. It was more of a rebuttal. And I think it was an opportunity missed for her to frame her candidacy better. So that's the fact of the matter. You know, I did, you know, if I wrote it, it would have been a close. So with that one, we'll get back to this issue, but let's I would have taken responsibility if I wrote that, but there's no possible way I could have written that thing. It was way too rambling and disjointed and it was
emotional.
It was emotional.
Exactly, it was emotional.
And, you know, and I believe in the Klingon method. Revenge is a dish best served cold.
That's it.
And as Sun Tzu said, you know, always pick the time and a place for a battle. That was not the time to respond. It was the time to make your close and emphasize your qualities versus his qualities.
Yeah, and the problem is that, you know, they took jabs at each other all day during that debate, all the time during that debate. And what's the #1 rule when you are next to a mic?
Always think it's open.
That's right. Always think the mic is hot. Always, because I'm gonna say this now. I didn't say this after the last debate. I'm gonna say it now after this debate. After the last debate, one of the candidates on the stage was flipping the bird to another candidate on the stage several times, mostly under the table. This time, the two candidates at the end, one of them flipped the bird to the other one, which was very inappropriate. And
Yeah.
I saw it, and other people saw it, and you know what? It's not acceptable. It's not acceptable. And I'll say right now, for the record, it was not a female who was flipping the bird. So, I leave it up to you to figure out who it was.
Well, take a wild guess in that first, in that first debate, who would be your first pick. You probably will be right on that. But again, we get back to this, and this is not, this is about moving Fall River forward. It's about what we're going to do. You have to look at their platforms, and in Jazel's case, he's got a record you can look at. And the thing is that he's, as far as I'm concerned, regardless of his record, his leadership ability to me is taking a major hit. This kind of childish behavior of always never ever taking any kind of hit if you do something wrong, it's not the way a leader does it. A leader knows how to take the hits too. Nobody ever, no leader ever, no leader didn't ever get into a position where they had to take some heat and had to take a hit. And that's what they do. They learn from their mistakes. They assume the responsibility, because you know what this whole thing reminds me of? I'm not a crook. I'm not a crook. Okay? Because that's what it reminds me of. It's, and it sounds like Richard Nixon denying everything. Gaps in the tape and more tapes. Gaps in the tapes. Now, this is what we've got now. And it's a sad commentary that the election has descended into this. And it should be about moving Fall River forward and about everybody's ideas to move Fall River forward.
And here's my problem with moving Fall River forward with this at this point, because he's saying that people want to. Well, he's saying people want to hold the city hostage. Nobody wants to hold the city hostage. You're holding the city hostage, Mr. Mayor. This morning, you made Channel 7. Last night, you made Channel 10. You made the master list, which is the daily news report of all issues going on locally, statewide, and nationally. It's a respectable source because it collates all the sources available. And you again made the press. Fall River again has another, from you, Mr. Mayor, you did this, another black eye.
And he made that statement. He liked the black eye statement, but
and that's why I said it.
No, and you're right. And that's the key. The key is that sat up there and as I said, basically at the end it was talking about black eyes and rather than dealing with the issue. And look, the reality is that holding hostage comment, and I'm going to read it. I guess this is directly off his Facebook page, so I'm saying it's verbatim. It's a quote because it's off his Facebook page. And it says, "I will continue to address any allegations made by anyone, as I always have, and will continue the turnaround of Fall River." You have to stick a political thing in there. The turnaround of Fall River, that's his new catchphrase. Despite the people who want to hold the city hostage. How are you holding a city hostage by saying that he's under investigation? Look, please, somebody send us an email and explain how we're holding. If you tell somebody, hey, you see that guy over there? He's under investigation. I saw him on television, and I hear that the police are investigating him. So are you holding anybody hostage? How are we holding a city hostage? Has it stopped the city? Has that allegation made you stop being mayor? By your own words, you said it hasn't. So how is anybody holding anybody hostage? Again, it sounds like my kids when they were teenagers. You know, you're trying to hold me hostage. I don't know. That's, yeah, by making me do my homework. Okay. But, and I really didn't have that much of a problem with them. So, but the fact is that this is crazy. I mean, the whole thing, it's like, okay, is he under investigation or he isn't? He should have had a big sigh of relief when that article came out and said, well, I got that monkey off my back. Let's move on. Okay, I'm under investigation, and like everybody else, I'm entitled to due process. And if I'm found not guilty, I can peg you all a finger. And if I'm found guilty, I'll disappear into the sunset. I don't know why, you know, he's making this, you know, this is the I'm being picked on syndrome. And, you know, it's not becoming someone who's supposed to be a leader. Leaders don't care about being picked on. Leaders have to stand up and fight every day. Whether you're a union leader, a CEO, you've got to fight every day against the barbarians at the gate. And that comes with the territory. If you don't want to be picked on, if you don't want to get into arguments, there's only one way to do that. Do nothing, say nothing, and then you'll be nothing.
See no evil, hear no evil, speak no evil. The monkeys had it right.
That's right.
But you know, this problem is just pervasive. And instead of addressing the issues, and one that Councilor Pereira brought up was, you know, why wasn't there a press conference on all these streets, the unsafe streets?
Because we'll give the city a black eye.
Give the city a black eye, and I don't have any solutions for it. Guess what? The people want to know that you're at least working on it. You've done more press conferences for nothing to push your own agenda. You even went so far on August 30th to send letters out to high school graduates of Durfee High School, which graduated back in May, June, and you waited until August 30th, 12 days, 13 days before the election to send out a congratulatory letter. You know,
he held those students hostage.
He held those letters hostage. Those letters were held hostage. Okay? That's what you did. Why did you do it? Because you used city postage, city stationery to post your campaign, to do your campaign. That should have been done in June when the students graduated, not in August when they're getting ready to enter into college or they're taking a job. That's the mistake, and that's a political move. That's all that was a political game. And you've played more political games. Like now, remember, we're going to downsize government, but now we're going to create an Office of Housing Development. Really? Who's going to get that job, Monica? Or are we going to bring back Michael Aguiar?
Or both.
Or both.
Or both.
Yeah.
Well, you know what he does. That's his MO. He lays off all the people who actually do the work. And then he creates new departments to give all his friends jobs. We've seen, to quote him, how many competent people. We saw how competent Mr. Aguiar was. How competent
Mr. Ponciano was. How competent Mr. Anthony, what's his name now? The neighborhood person.
Yeah, well, okay. Whatever.
How about Monica, who never showed up at a neighborhood meeting?
That's right.
And she was being paid $40,000.
Well, she was busy campaigning for the mayor. That's
exactly.
I mean, and violating federal law doing it. Yeah. So, by the way,
maybe that's why HUD's investigating him. I don't know. But this is what happens. And right now, Monica's been laid off, and she's out collecting unemployment until she has her baby so she can come back to work for the city. Again, an incompetent coming back to the city.
Well, you know what really gets me?
These are political payoffs. We're going to downsize government, downsize the salaries, but we gave everybody big pay raises.
Well, you know what really gets me? I think if I remember correctly, in the last campaign season, he said that the Sutter administration was the most corrupt administration he'd ever seen. Now, there's a guy that was a former DA. It wasn't corrupt. It may have been incompetent, in a lot of people's opinion. But I guess now you just got the title again.
Hey, have a great weekend. And now call the Herald News and demand the release of that tape.
Stay angry,
everybody.
everybody.
Because you have a reason.